Yeah, footballs and all that good stuff. We're getting set up here for a special Thursday of the Sunday Spectacular that the NFL season has come to an end. We'll see in about 4 minutes where we'll recap Super Bowl 58, discuss the aftermath of the Kansas City parade, and our off-season topics.
What's up, everybody? How's everybody doing? How you doing tonight, Dave?
All right, doing okay. This is the what do we call it? The makeup show for missing Tuesday night.
Yes, tonight is our makeup show. I left it as Tuesday night spectacular, but
And it's going to start being Sundays, but not necessarily every week, and not necessarily this weekend. We're going to take a little break probably for a few weeks. Chris may do some interviews with some super fans for expectations of the off season, but there really isn't much to talk about until free agency, which is March the 13th, is the start of the new league year. So until then, let's talk a recap here. Super
um,
Bowl 58. But before we begin, Chris, let's just talk about the elephant in the room briefly. We're not going to try to make this whole show about what happened at, the Super Bowl celebration. We'll just say here, we'll talk about it more, near the end. That way we're not strained from the happiness of what we do here. And that's that we feel bad.
yeah,
Our thoughts go out. We're thinking about the people, everybody that helped each other out there. Thank you. And, it's a sucky situation, but, there's always going to be a bad apple somewhere. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It could be at church, it could be at a theater, it could be at a parade.
yes,
And that's the country we're living in, bud.
exactly. Just real short, my prayers go out to everybody involved. I know what you're feeling. Real quick, I was at a fireworks show in Detroit when I was like 14, 13, and there was a mash. A bunch of people got shot, not even a quarter mile from me. I've seen the people crying, people freaking out. It's not a fun thing to be a part of. So my thoughts are with the team, everybody that was there and dealt with that, and of course the victims and their families.
So let's get on with the Super Bowl recap. But of course, we'll begin with the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. They go back to back and will be the first team since the New England Patriots in 2003, 2004, with an opportunity to three-peat. They're already discussing it. They were discussing it on the podium when they accepted the trophy. They talked about it at the celebration. I'm a bit of a realist.
Of course.
I don't think it's going to happen. Listen, there's just too many obstacles to overcome. And I think that between free agency, they've got a lot of players that are keys to their team. L'Jarius Sneed, Chris Jones, Willie Gay, and then next year it's going to get worse because they got, the interior of their offensive line, Nick Bolton. But I think that their offense will be a little better, but I think their defense is going to take a hit. I think that
Yeah.
they will, try to improve their receivers. Mecole Hardman was outstanding for Kansas City. He caught the 52-yard pass down the sideline, earlier in the game. And, and then he caught the touchdown on, Tom and Jerry, or, which is a version of the corn dog play from last year.
I mean,
So I expect him to re-sign in Kansas City. I think, he had a taste of the other side. He went to the Jets, this season in the beginning, trying to chase after more money. And they didn't use them. They didn't know what to do with them. And so he gets traded back at the deadline to the Chiefs, and it's like he's back home, you
yeah.
know.
I mean
Uh,
that's the crazy thing. You leave, you come back, and then you're the one that catches the winning touchdown.
yeah.
What are the odds of that?
I don't know. But, you know, I'll say as a Chiefs fan, I was disappointed that Pacheco fumbled the ball, but I guess all is fair because Christian McCaffrey fumbled the ball. And so both teams turned the ball over twice in the game.
Yep.
I thought, from my perspective, it was a well officiated game.
I thought the game was perfect myself.
I thought that, they let them play a little bit. And, so yes, there could have been holding calls, but could have been holding on both teams on the offensive lines trying to stop the defensive linemen from sacking the quarterbacks. Okay.
Yeah.
Karlaftis was held at least 4 times. Okay. But I know that Bosa got held. Okay. Yeah. And so, they didn't make any calls that changed the outcome of the game, kind of like last year with the holding call that they didn't call the whole game, and then they called them at the end, and the Chiefs ended up winning on a field goal.
I mean, if you guys were here last week's show, my prediction, exactly what I predicted happened. What did I say last week? Chiefs win because I feel like the 49ers were going to let them stay in the game and around for the whole game. Other than that, the whole game to me was called right. It's a championship. You got to let the boys play. The refs did right. It's probably, be honest, that was probably the best game I've seen called all season. I'm not going to lie. I had no issues with that game. But the Chiefs got it done exactly how I predicted it. I felt like the 49ers would start the scoring, but for them to win, to me, would have been a shootout, and they didn't make it a shootout. They had some chances, and KC's defense came big when they needed to.
Well, and it was basically the formula that they had all year. The defense kept them in the game until Mahomes could turn it on and win it at the end. The thing that, a lot of people were complaining about was Shanahan decided to take the ball first in overtime.
Did you see Patrick Mahomes' face?
Yeah. He's like, they won it first.
The best part is this Shanahan, I hate to say this, but Shanahan is a dumbass. He said at the podium he knew the rules. The teams knew the rules. He said his coaches.
Listen. His explanation is understandable in my opinion.
Yeah, but if you hear the fullback
he thought they were going to score a touchdown, and he thought that Mahomes was going to score a touchdown, and he wanted the ball third. Because whoever, once both teams have a chance to, have a drive, then it's sudden death after that.
No, I know that.
And so that's why you take defense. He thought that they were going to go right down the field. Both defenses were gassed. And it took till the very end for, an offensive line mistake, really, for the defensive lineman to get in there, Chris Jones, which affected the pass, or he'd have had a touchdown to Ayuk at the very end, and they had to settle for the field goal.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for that, they would have scored a touchdown.
You're probably right.
Now, what Shanahan doesn't know is that the Chiefs had talked about it. And if, they got the ball second or whatever, and they go down and score a touchdown, they were going for 2. Okay? They wasn't going to allow the other team, if they gave up a touchdown and then they scored a touchdown, they were going for 2, and it was going to be in their hands whether they won or lost the game on offense.
Yeah. No, what I'm talking about is they shared an audio leak, and the 49ers fullback clearly says out loud, "Hey, do you know they get the ball too, even if we scored a touchdown?" I didn't know that. But then that's when he said his excuse for what happened, he made it clear that all coaches talked to all players, everybody on the team knew the rules. That's what I meant where he was a dumbass, because there's clearly audio of his players not knowing the rules.
Listen, the players don't necessarily need to know the rules unless it's situational. It's the coach that needs to know the rules. And the coach knew the rules, okay? And I understand why he thought, he needed to go third, thinking that they were going to score a touchdown. I think it's a little arrogant of him to think they were going to score a touchdown. But once again, both defenses were gassed,
Yeah.
especially his that just came off the field and allowed him to tie the game in regulation. You don't want to send him back out there. I think his strategy was correct. It just didn't work out for him.
By the way, Chiefs, I will say fuck you to this. You couldn't just score that damn touchdown at the end of the game. You had to kick a field goal. The only chance I had on winning money during that game was if they scored a damn touchdown and won it at the end of regulation. I would have won the reverse side of it. So it would have been only $50, but I would only lost 20 of the dollars that I bet total with the squares. I did pick a parlay. I don't know if you bet on any bets, but I picked the parlay on anytime touchdown scorer. I thought I did good. I had Kelsey catching the touchdown, Rice. I had McCaffrey scoring the touchdown, and Debo. And Pacheco.
Yeah, Pacheco didn't score, and Kelsey didn't score. I had both running backs scoring a touchdown. Of course, McCaffrey did. I had the over on the passing yards, and I had the over on, some other stuff. The only thing I won was a prop bet that the opening kickoff of the game would be a touchback. Okay. And I won $30 because of how much I bet on it. But here in Kansas, they wouldn't let me pick. I would have gotten stuff right. Okay. We couldn't bet on what color the Gatorade was. I was sad. Okay.
We couldn't bet
on the length of the national anthem. Okay. It went over. I'd have won that. Purple, that's the same color they had last year because that's their favorite flavor. I would have got that,
Yeah.
And so, whatever, it didn't work out, But the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, okay? I think that it's obvious they have cemented their dynasty now. You had to win 3 Super Bowls to be considered a dynasty, like the Cowboys of the 90s, the New England Patriots of the 2000s.
Yep.
And so, now they've got 3. They've won 3 out of 5. They're looking for a 3-peat now to get their 4th. Kelsey's not retiring. He's made that clear. Reed's not retiring. He's made that clear.
Yep.
But you're looking at free agency. Chris Jones is a free agent again. They could franchise tag him, but it'll cost them an extra 25% if they tag him a second year in a row. Now, at the parade, I'm not going anywhere.
But did you notice his agent
tweeted? That means nothing.
Exactly. His agent tweeted out exact words, cut him off the beer now, folks.
Yeah. I would franchise tag L'Jarius Sneed, the corner.
You probably say, because I didn't share it. I wanted to share it. I just didn't know how. I didn't know how legit the source was, but it was a picture of him, and supposedly he said his only words to the GM was basically "pay me."
Yeah.
So if that statement's true from him, the smart move the Chiefs got is franchise tag him at least.
Yeah, they'll franchise tag him. I think that there's a real good chance they lose Chris Jones. If he wants to be there, he can be there. But if it's about the money, then he's going to end up going. Now, I know that Patrick Mahomes can restructure his contract. The salary cap is going up. We actually have pretty good salary cap available going into this offseason because of how many people are not under contract right now, going into this next year. So I think you're going to see quite a few different faces. I expect them, just initial reaction. I think they're going to let Donovan Smith, the left tackle, go. I think they're going to let Marquez Valdez-Scantling go, Clyde Edwards-Helaire go. And then they'll just have to see if they can keep Willie Gay, the linebacker. But I think that they go into the draft looking for a top flight wide receiver to pair with Rashee Rice. I think they'll look for a tackle. They'll look for a defensive tackle. I think they're pretty good in the secondary, even if they were to lose L'Jarius Sneed, because, of all those corners and safeties that they've drafted in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
You've got Jalen Watson. You've got Shamari Connor. They brought in Mike Edwards. Now, he was on a 1-year deal. I expect him to re-sign. I think Drew Tranquill will stay there at linebacker. He was on a 1-year deal. But you got Justin Reed is under contract at safety. I'm trying to think of some of the other, the corners and everything. But, they drafted like 5 guys and kept them all. And Sneed wasn't part of those 5. And so they have depth in the secondary. And so, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll, try to keep Chris Jones and they'll let Sneed walk. I would try to keep them both, but I don't know there's enough money to go around.
Yeah, that's
but because of how much they're paying, some of their top people, they're going to have to go through growing pains by hoping to get some hits in the draft like they have the last 2 years.
Yeah. So I guess this is a take. I'm sick of it. I just want to hear your thoughts of it. I'm sick of 2 things, and it all has to do with Travis Kelce. I'm sick of these fans and everybody crying about him and Reed. Don't get me wrong. Should he pushed him, got that close where he almost made him fall? Probably not. Did he cross the line? For sure. But at the same time, that line he didn't cross it wasn't aggression. He wasn't going off on his coach. His exact words to Andy Reid is, "Put me in, I could score." Also, with that being said, from reports, he was also the player and the only player, from what I heard, that stand up in the locker room and speak to the team.
Yeah, they had big speeches and everything the night before, and then he got up and talked again during halftime, of the game, firing up everybody and getting them ready to go. I'm not trying to dismiss what happened. We don't know the relationship, okay, between Travis and Andy. Okay. I've seen them on the podcast at New Heights. Okay. They rough each other up. There were a couple of big old boys. One may be an older guy. Okay. But they're big old boys. They're football players. Okay. Andy Reid was a football player before he was a coach. Okay.
Exactly.
And these guys rough each other up, mentally and verbally, and they talk trash, but they're family. Okay,
exactly.
They're family.
Andy Reid said it after he won the Super Bowl. He loved that Kelce was like that. He wasn't pissed at him by any means.
He keeps me young, okay, because now even him and his brother talked about it on the podcast. It could have been handled in a different way, but in the heat of the moment, we have seen these sideline things happen before in every sport.
Exactly. Okay? And they either kill you or they help you. It's one of the two.
Okay? And I mean, from the time that he did that, here come the Chiefs.
Exactly.
Okay? Here come the Chiefs. He caught him where he was off balance and didn't have his feet underneath him. So it looked worse than it really was. And once again, I'm not trying to dismiss it. Okay. Travis Kelce is a leader on that team.
Okay,
Travis Kelce is going to the Hall of Fame. Okay. If he was in the wrong in any way,
he would have
okay,
never seen that
the
field
coach
again.
would have put him on the spot. The team would have put him on the spot. Okay. I'm just telling you, it's no big deal, and people are blowing it out of proportion because they're looking for a reason to slam this guy. Okay.
Because
They're
he's
looking
dating
for
Taylor
anything.
Swift.
Now, he's a big celebrity now. He's dating Taylor Swift. They showed her for a minute and 5 seconds during the Super Bowl. Oh, my God.
Exactly. Oh
Okay.
my God.
You know, and so, we live in cancel culture now where if you do anything wrong, well, we're going to get you. We're going to get you. And you'll never live it down, you know.
Exactly. And my other take on the Kelsey thing is, please shut the fuck up about him being drunk at the parade. And that's for anybody. I've seen so many comments calling the Chiefs non-role models because Kelsey's drunk and all the other people are drinking. And this is just what I want to say.
They're grown men.
Exactly. And this is what
They're not role models. They are sports athletes.
here's the thing. Coming with sports athletes, you need to be a role model for the young kids. I'm not going to say you don't, but this is what I am going to say here is, so you're telling me these players give up 90% of their life to this game to play for the kids, their fans, and obviously the money.
Right.
But you have to understand this is a little bit more than a job and just the money. They get paid the money because, why you go on vacation, they get a very small window for vacation time. And in that vacation
they're
time,
working in the off season.
they got to work out. They have to eat right. They can't be fucking eating McDonald's and do whatever the fuck they want. They got to stay in shape. And then when the season starts, guess what? They're missing family birthdays, holidays, parties, because they're
Time with the
focused
kids.
on football and they have no choice but to be, or they're not going to get that, or they're not going to be a football player anymore. So they win a championship. They get a couple days before their routine of, back to working out, eating right, getting ready for another season starts. So they get a parade. They get one day to be a fan, to be a human with the fans, and do things the fans get to do every fucking Sunday, which is drink beer and celebrate. So they got the party with the fans for one day, and now Travis is such a bad role model because he was human for one day in the public eye. Shut up, because half of the people there were drinking beer and they didn't even win a Super Bowl. And I guarantee half of them had their kids with them.
It's the hypocrisy of society. Do what I say, not what I do.
Exactly. It just blows my mind. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. You know what's funny is Travis Kelce from the Andy Reid incident and being drunk on stage has got more backlash than last year when Patrick Mahomes was so drunk he left the Super Bowl trophy in the crowd for a minute. It
wasn't the real Super Bowl trophy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But still, he was out there stumbling around at that point. I didn't hear him get bashed one bit.
They're trashing him because he's with Taylor Swift. They're looking for reasons to dog him down.
It's the most annoying shit I've ever seen.
All right, so real quick, I want to address these comments here. We've got a bunch of them. I don't know who this Ural Jackson is. They're a Lions fan. You probably know him. But
he's a huge Lions fan.
He is still living in the past from 3 weeks ago, where Dan Campbell, if he'd have went for the touchdown and not the field goal, he was the coach and all this other stuff. Go Lions. And my favorite one is, you know, I think Detroit Lions win the Super Bowl next year. I think we're better this year than last year. It's been 3 weeks. What have you done to improve yourself in those 3 weeks that you're suddenly better?
Well, we actually did make a signing. I mean, obviously the kid hasn't played NFL. He made it to the Bears, I believe it was, undrafted, was released, and then went up to the BC Lions in Canadian Football League. We signed him, and he only played 2 seasons, and he had 25 sacks. And this year he got 20. He got 18 of those 25 this past season. We
Okay,
signed.
but let's hold off on the overreactions 3 weeks after the season's over.
Oh, for sure,
Okay.
for sure. I mean,
You
don't get me
know,
wrong.
let me switch gears here and talk about the team that lost the game, and that's the San Francisco 49ers. I think it is ridiculous that they fired the defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks. The team gave up one touchdown to Patrick Mahomes in regulation. Okay. They played well. They played well enough to hold down the Lions and make the comeback. Okay. They played well, in the divisional round and hold down Green Bay to come back in that game. Okay. And I mean, they had the number one seed in the NFC. How is this guy not a good fit? I think he's the fall guy for Kyle Shanahan, with the 49ers. I don't think he should have been fired. It's amazing to me that, after the Super Bowl's over, what would they have kept him had they won the Super Bowl?
Exactly.
I find it ridiculous that he was fired. They're going to be on what will be their third defensive coordinator in the last 5 years. Saleh became the head coach of the Jets. DeMeco Ryans became the head coach of the Texans. Wilks comes in. He's been an interim head coach with Carolina. He's been a one-year wonder, coach with the Arizona Cardinals. And, they give him the defensive coordinator position. I thought the defense played fine.
Defense played fine.
They're saying it wasn't a good fit.
Shanahan, here's the deal. And I hate to say this, and this is just my opinion. You might not agree with me exactly. I think Shanahan's doing everything he can do to find a scapegoat. Because if you've seen John Lynch's face when he was giving the explaining right next to him, he was making a face where he was like, kind of looking at him like, are you for real, dude? Almost. I mean, he didn't have a mic and say anything, but he was sitting right there, and that face he had on him was not a happy camper. And then now this. So to me, I think this is Shanahan just trying to find a scapegoat to keep his job at this point. I mean, don't get me wrong.
I don't think his job's in danger. I just think that a lot of people think that maybe, he's maximized what he can do with this team. But listen, you've got a second-year quarterback, okay? He needs more time. Everybody has always said in all the things that I have ever heard, the third year is when quarterbacks really turn it on. And he was in the MVP conversation this year.
Yeah.
So, he'll be healthy this offseason. He'll be able to participate. The offense will get better this offseason. Now, they may lose Brandon Ayuk, who's making some noise. His girlfriend's making some noise. He wants to get paid, and he is one of the reasons why Debo doesn't get double covered all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Ayuk is a fabulous wide receiver. I had him on 3 of my fantasy
I
football
mean,
teams.
here's my thing. I I don't think I don't be honest, if you go back to the second half, I hate to say this, but Shanahan did the one thing he's known for doing,
Stopped running the ball.
and he's 0-3 in Super Bowls because of it now. So that's what I'm saying. I
I
don't think Shanahan's
outlined,
a bad coach.
we talked about it. I outlined it before the game how the 49ers would win the game.
Yep.
They got to keep running the football.
And this is
And when they were running the ball, first of all, the first problem was McCaffrey fumbled,
yeah,
or they would have scored on their opening drive. Okay. Then, you come back and they started ganging up on the run pretty good, but he didn't stick to it.
no,
Okay. But he had quite a few touches, but some of them were receiving. And then when they opened up the second half, they went 3 and out, 3 and out, and 3 and out at the same time that the Chiefs were doing the exact same thing. And during those times, they ran the ball twice. Okay.
and that's why
out of 9 plays.
Yep. And that's why I think behind closed doors, I mean, obviously, I don't think he gets fired this year. But you can't tell me behind closed doors, they're not coming together and putting shit together now.
Yeah,
with that. You know what I mean?
Listen, there's a lot of pressure to win in the NFL. Only one team comes out, ahead. And listen, if you're going to lose to somebody, you're probably going to lose to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs. And this is not going to be the final year that's going to be that way. Now, I think there's a strong possibility that, they'll get taken down a notch this next year. They may be a better team offensively, but you're going to have Joe Burrow coming back. Jim Harbaugh is the coach in the Chargers now. Okay. I think that they found something, an offensive coordinator, Joe Brady in Buffalo. Miami will get a year better. Houston's on the come up. They're going to be a year better. And they could be healthy. Tank Dell coming back. You're going to have Richardson at quarterback for the Colts. The crop of young, dynamic quarterbacks in the AFC is so thick. They're going to be in a dogfight. Okay? They're going to be in a dogfight. They already know it. The target's been on their back for 4 or 5 years now. They get everybody's best shot. They know they're playing the best quarterback in the league. Now they're playing one of the best defenses in the league. You're matching wits with Andy Reid. It's not going to be a cakewalk by any stretch of the imagination.
Nope.
And so going back to San Francisco, they're going to have to go through free agency. Now, they're going to have a lot more cap room than the Chiefs will because they're only paying Brock Purdy a low amount of money. So they got lots more money to throw around for a couple more years. And so they should be able to re-sign Brandon Ayuk, but it's going to cost them. I think their run defense needs some bolstering. Javon Hargrave did not fulfill that promise by coming over from Philadelphia. They got gouged for over 100 yards rushing in all the playoff games this year. And, so I think they're going to have to bolster their run defense. And, of course, they'll have to have a new defensive coordinator. Who knows who that'll be? Rex Ryan interviewed with Dallas and didn't get the job. Maybe, he is an aggressive, defensive coordinator. If that's what they're looking for is a more aggressive attacking style, maybe, if he's wanting to get back in the league, obviously, that could be an interesting landing spot for him.
Could you possibly see them actually maybe hire an OC instead of Shanahan calling the calls this year?
I couldn't hear you. Speak up.
I said, could you possibly see them signing a offensive coordinator to come take over the play callings for Shanahan?
No chance.
You don't think so?
No. No, I think that, he's been calling the plays the whole time. They've been to the Super Bowl twice. They've been to the NFC Championship game 4 out of the last 5 years. They're identical to the Chiefs in the NFC
Except
when
for
it comes to, they just haven't gotten over the hump in the big game, and they've been beat more in the NFC Championship game.
the crazy thing is, I'm not taking it like I said in my predictions. If it was a shootout, they win hands down. And that's not taking nothing from the Chiefs. Their defense was the strong suit. I think all of us could agree on that this year. Don't get me wrong, Mahomes made his plays, but that defense is what got it done. To me, this was probably their best chance of beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And it just kind of blows my mind that once again, Shanahan with his play calling was one of the reasons to play in the factor that they lost the Super Bowl. I don't know. Sometimes you just got to look. This year, I think it's tricky.
Just I want to have a shout out here to an avid watcher of ours. Ron Pilbin is had an unexpected surgery, and he's missed the last couple of games. Not games, but broadcasts. Normally he watches and comments a lot, and he's got a message here that I'm supposed to read for all of us and for himself and for the viewers when it comes to, he doesn't tell us what he's going through, but I told him, I said, if he sent me some comments, about things that are going on, that I would read it off because he'll watch the broadcast at a later time after having surgery today. He would say he just wanted to mention the fiasco regarding the shooting in the parade yesterday, and that it's hard to celebrate your team's win without one or two bad apples ruin a good time. He also wants to go ahead and mention how good it is to see Kansas City becoming a dynasty. He's happy for them and their fans. Now the coaching carousel starts and draft projections get going. Lots to talk about when it comes to teams and players leading up to the draft, and he's looking forward to all of that. Fingers crossed that you get better and that you're back on your feet in no time here in a couple of weeks, buddy.
Yes, Ron. I'm keeping you in my thoughts, buddy. We've definitely missed you over here. I definitely miss my comment section blowing up with your comments. You're the one that always keeps the show really going. Because there's some times we get that dull moment, we're looking at each other, and then Ron has a great comment.
Did a good job. Mandy did a good job last week.
Comment, but I can't wait till you're back. Just so you know, we said at the beginning of the show, Ron, we'll probably take a couple weeks off. But hopefully, I'm hopeful only about maybe 2 weeks. We'll see. But it really depends on how the news goes. If it's calmed down for the next few weeks and there ain't nothing to talk about, it is what it is. But last year, it stayed pretty energetic.
It was pretty steady, yep. So let's talk about, possible off-season storylines. And I'll just go by division. And let's start with your division, the NFC North. Okay. My first thoughts and feelings are Chicago's going to fuck this up.
Well, Chicago's doing some.
I think Chicago is going to fuck this up. Okay. I think they should stay with Justin Fields. Okay. I think that they should use their first pick as trade bait, and they should get him a good receiver and a great defensive player early on in the draft with their 2 first-round picks, and then they'll have even more goodies that they're adding to their draft capital, even after last year with their big deal with Carolina.
Yeah.
The reason I say they're going to screw this up is because I listen to a lot of, and we've talked about it, radio shows. We talk about, I watch a lot of television involving the NFL. And there are a couple of people out there that have changed my mind about Caleb Williams. Okay.
I still
He's not all it's cracked up to be. It's not saying he's going to be a bust, but there are warning signs, red flags, and things of that nature. One, I don't think he wants to go to Chicago, but he wants to be the number 1 pick. But that has nothing to do with his playing ability.
Yeah.
And the main person that I do listen to from time to time that had me thinking that this is a mistake and he shouldn't be drafted this high is Merrill Hodge. Merrill Hodge says that anybody that compares Caleb Williams to Patrick Mahomes is crazy. He's nowhere near Patrick Mahomes.
I agree with that.
Okay? He does not go through his progressions like he should. He takes off too often. It's like he draws plays in the sand instead of following the offense. And I know that sounds like things that Patrick Mahomes would do, but there are times that he does that and there's no reason to, when he's not getting any pressure, and he does it anyway.
The difference is
he throws too many interceptions, and the coaching that he's been getting, while it was Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator this last year under Lincoln Riley, and Kingsbury was Mahomes' college coach, I just have reservations on Caleb Williams going number 1. But I don't necessarily this year yet have, like last year where I was like, CJ Stroud's the guy. I called it from the beginning, and I was right, and I'm glad it worked out for Houston. I never liked Bryce Young. And, you were talking about how, he was an Ohio State quarterback, and Ohio State's never had a good quarterback in the NFL. And bam, C.J. Stroud takes them to the playoffs.
Hey, I'm happy to say I ate my words with a smile on my face.
And but I'm not trying to downplay anything, or bash what your opinion was.
No,
I'm just saying right now, for Chicago, I think that there is a way that they can go this offseason that, would be beneficial to them, but I feel like they're going to screw it up.
Yeah.
And that's going to get the head coach fired when he probably should have been fired this year.
Well,
instead, they did the same thing that Philadelphia did, and they've changed their coordinators.
Here's my take on it. With the CJ Stroud real quick thing, my thing was I watched so much good quarterbacks come out of Ohio State to the NFL, and every single one of them pretty much flopped and became backup QBs, and that's it. So for me, with the CJ Stroud thing, it was hard for me to jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
Because
I felt with history, and that's fine.
I felt like I was going to be stupid if I said, yeah, man, this kid's going to have a good college career, and then he just turned into another Ohio State flop. You know what I mean? So that's why I left it, is he had to prove me wrong. And my God, the kid did just that. And I'm okay with that.
Between Ohio State and Georgia, where they nearly beat him, where he showed his mobility, his accuracy, and he took the best defense and the eventual national champion, to the brink of getting beat in that game, and turns out he didn't really have that great a cast of characters around him. He had a few, but not like what you would expect
Exactly.
in a national semifinal.
And to me, that's why I'm not sold on Caleb Williams. And I think anybody who takes some highs, it's kind of crazy to me that he's getting compared to Patrick Mahomes, because I'm just going to be real with this, and this is not me being a homer by any means, because I don't care if the kid comes from Michigan. I don't care if the kid comes from Utah. Nothing in the NFL is guaranteed. You know what I mean? We've seen it millions of times now over the years. Good kids get drafted. But the one thing that still irks my mind is UFC has not been that good in the last 4 years of college football.
Yeah.
They've went to bowl games, but I haven't seen
the defense has been terrible.
But I haven't seen Caleb Williams playing in college playoffs or on the real true big stages since he's been in college. And this is not me like talking shit. It's just, to me, if this kid was the next Patrick Mahomes, don't you think USC would have been mentioned a lot more in the last 4 years? Because to me,
they've only been there a couple of years.
But still, the point.
Okay, so if you don't know, okay, Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams were both at Oklahoma.
Okay.
And then he came to USC, and then he went in the transfer portal and followed him over. And they were together for, I think, 1 year, just the two of them. And then Cliff Kingsbury got fired in Arizona, spent some time in the Oriental for a while, and then came over and became like the offensive coordinator, offensive assistant to the passing game or whatever. And, so that's how that connection comes together. Now, okay. Lincoln Riley didn't leave college. He didn't go to a different team. He didn't go to the NFL. So it'll be interesting to see how he does this year joining the Big Ten. Whereas Kingsbury took the offensive coordinator job in Washington, which means they're probably hoping to draft Caleb Williams. They have the number 2 pick.
To me, it's crazy is how they got this kid ranked so high, but they're trying to rank J.J. McCarthy so low.
Well, and there are a lot of really good quarterbacks, and teams are desperate to get the next big thing or the next, wonderful quarterback. You've got Drake May and Bo Nix, and you've got, Jalen Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, Caleb Williams. All of them have been mentioned as possible first-round draft picks.
I will tell you.
And there are quite a few teams that need a fresh franchise quarterback, and a lot of them are right at the top of the list.
My true opinion.
I don't think Chicago should be one of those teams. I think they should use it as draft collateral. Get them either a Roma Duze or a Marvin Harrison at wide receiver. Get them either a great offensive lineman or a great defensive pass rusher, in the draft.
Say that name one more time.
Roma Duze.
No, not that guy.
Washington.
The next one.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Guess what?
Ohio State.
What did he just say? Please report this to the Bears. Guess who played with Marvin Harrison Jr. for a part of his career?
Justin Fields.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
But guess what? The Bears will do Bears things.
Hi, Brandon. Good to have you along here. So, all right. So there's my take on Chicago. Let's go to Minnesota. Minnesota's got a big, decision to make. Are they going to draft a quarterback? Are they going to go into free agency and find someone cheaper? Or are they going to bring back Kirk Cousins to be the starter? Now, before he got hurt, I think Cousins was playing his best football of his career. He's in the same system that he was in when he was in Washington. It was really starting to come along. He knows the coach well. The coach knows him well. The only problem I had with Minnesota this last year was at running back.
Yes.
Not happy in the running back position. They ended up turning it over to Ty Chandler. Addison fumbled the ball all the time. And while he can be electric from time to time, I can't live with the fumbles.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you got Justin Jefferson, who is going to want a contract. He is, what do I want to say? He is qualified to get a new contract now. And he's going to want paid as one of the, if not the top wide receiver in the NFL, one of. And so they're probably going to have to franchise him at the very least. And he's going to want to be paid.
I've heard some reports.
Those are the storylines for Minnesota, Chris.
I've heard some reports that supposedly Kirk Cousins said he's not looking to break the bank to come back to Minnesota. But I don't know.
That's a smart move on his part because he's been injured.
Well,
You've got an aging quarterback coming off an injury, with a team that's got salary cap fatigue, if you will. Yeah. And, they need some more parts.
I mean, that is smart.
Stars is going to want paid.
But here's my thing is, what does he mean by that? Is he going to want is he still going to expect the $40 million contract as the minimum? You know what I'm saying? And how much is Justin Jefferson going to want a year? This is a big question. But then it's kind of crazy because I don't know how true those statements truly were, because it's kind of crazy that we haven't heard any kind of news of them even talking to Kirk Cousins yet. You think they would be already, trying to get into that discussion to see where things are going.
Brandon says that Marvin Harrison Jr. and Justin Fields never played together. Well, we know they went to the same college, but they may not have. How many years has Justin Fields been in the NFL, Chris? 3?
3.
Yeah.
See, that's
probably true.
Well, see, I thought they played maybe his freshman year or Harrison's freshman year, because Harrison
Harrison's been there that long.
If I'm
he's
not
coming out early. I mean, I'd be stunned if he was a junior. Is he?
No, he's a
sophomore.
No, he's a senior. He's a senior, still with the 5th-year option. I'm pretty sure.
I got to get my book.
I'll look it up right now, but I'm pretty sure he's a senior and had a 5th-year
Hi, David
option.
Burns. Welcome to the show. Tell us who your favorite team is. Brandon Biglands is, the New York Giants. Missed it by a year, Brandon says. Moving on real quick now, we'll go to the Green Bay Packers, who I think is the up-and-coming team in the division. We saw what they did to the Cowboys. We saw how close they came to beating the 49ers. Jordan Love is for real. He's had a full season under his belt now. And they're going to come back next year. He'll be more seasoned, another off season with him as the starter. Same system, same coaching staff. I think that the defense will be better. They're going to have a new defensive coordinator. I think it's the former head coach from Boston College.
Oh, no, I'm wrong, David. Sorry.
Whose name I don't know.
I'm sorry. You're right. He is a junior.
The Bears, but our quarterback sucks. You don't like Justin Fields. You don't think it's a product of the offensive line or play calling or, I think he had really good receivers this year. DJ Moore, I really liked it that they got him in the deal. And I think that if they just surround him with more weapons, if they protect him up front, and the defense plays like it did at the end of the season going into next year, Chicago's got a chance to make the playoffs. But I think that if they draft Caleb Williams, they'll be making a big mistake. Yeah, I love Fields too, Brandon. I think that it's hard for a quarterback when he's got a new offensive coordinator and then a new offensive coordinator. And now he's going to have a new offensive coordinator again, And so there's no stability. it reminds me of Alex Smith. Okay. Alex Smith was the number 1 pick in the draft when he came out of Utah. And when he joined the 49ers, he had an offensive coordinator. And then at the end of the year, he got fired. So they added a new offensive coordinator. And at the end of the year, the head coach gets fired, and then he's on his 3rd offensive coordinator. And then that guy takes a head coaching job elsewhere, and they come back with another offensive coordinator, and they don't use the same system. And when you do that to somebody, they don't get the stability they need year in and year out, so that when they see the defense, everybody on the team's on the same page because they know what to expect. The repetitions, okay, the chance to, be in a system longer than he has hurts these young quarterbacks. It happened to Derek Carr. It happened to Alex Smith. It happened to, I'm trying to think. I know it's happened to other, and as soon as Alex Smith had
It's
the
happened
same
to
offensive
Matthew
coordinator,
Stafford like 6 times.
okay, when Alex Smith had the same offensive coordinator under Jim Harbaugh, for a couple of years, he started to show what he could do until he got hurt and they turned to Kaepernick. Then Smith goes to Kansas City and he's with Andy Reid for 4 years. Same system. They made the playoffs every year. Yeah, David Carr in Houston. I was going to say that. Brandon,
we got Stephanie. She's from Chicago, Illinois. She agrees with you about Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields.
Hi, Stephanie.
Don't get me wrong.
Welcome to the show.
I was against Justin in the offseason. I thought he was a bust going in, but I'm not gonna lie. He showed me, in a few games I watched, that he has potential if he gets the right coaching and the right help. And that's to me the biggest problems of the Chicago Bears. They can find a good quarterback, but they can never match it with good receivers and good people around them, or they get good receivers and they don't got a good quarterback.
Well, listen, this is the best news about the new offensive coordinator, okay, is that I believe they run the same system, okay? It's just a different coach, okay? It's the guy coming from Seattle whose name's eluding me right now, okay, the new offensive coordinator. They both, him and Getsy, each came from the same teachings and system. Getsy leaves, the other guy comes in. It's Shane Baldwin or something like that. I can't quite remember, but but they run the same system, and if the terminology is the same, that'll be an advantage for them this year because it'll be like he's got the same, stuff going on. And he won't have to relearn an entire new playbook, which has got to drive these guys crazy.
It would drive me insane. Just like this. Okay, never mind. He saved himself because Earl Jackson said he couldn't wait to see Hendon Hooker play, but then he came back and said in preseason. I was going to say, okay, get the fuck out of here with that. Goff had us this close to fucking Super Bowl.
Let's move on. Okay, we were talking about Minnesota. We talked about Green Bay. As far as Green Bay is concerned, are they going to bring Aaron Jones back? He's a little expensive, but hey, look what he did in the playoffs. And
to me, you can't.
Picks. I don't know
if
they'll be able to bring in any free agents, to play with Jordan Love. But I'm pretty sure they're on the uptick. I love their receiving group that they have there. They don't really have any first-round draft picks in that wide receiver, which they haven't done, even when Rodgers was there. But, man, have they found some really great receivers.
Yeah.
I like Reed. I like Dontavian Wicks. Christian Watson was hurt, this last year. But when he was healthy the previous year and him and Aaron Rodgers got on the same page in the second half of the season, he was dynamite. And so, they got Romeo Dobbs, and they drafted the two tight ends this year.
Yeah.
And so I think that if they might need to bolster the offensive line, but it's mostly work on their defense. I like Green Bay in this division next year. It depends on, we get to Detroit now. What are they going to do this offseason? Who are their free agents? What does their cap room look like? I'll defer to you in this matter.
St. Brown's in talks from what I've heard today already with the contract extension. Goff is next. So I see them take that off. I also said we signed what was his name again? We also signed linebacker Matthew Bettis from the BC Lions in Canadian. He was a kid that actually Chicago picked up, undrafted, released. He went up to Canadian Football Leagues, played 2 years, 25 sacks in 2 years, 18 of those 25 sacks this past season. So I like it for depth. I don't think, he's going to be some star, but who knows? Maybe he is the missing piece on the other side of Hutchinson, those kind of numbers. We're going to have to see how he translates in the NFL. But I do kind of like it because if he can play other positions like special teams and you can rotate him in and he can get to the quarterback and produce sacks like that, that's a big game changer. Also, I read another report on this kid. This kid had multiple contracts offers from NFL teams, and he turned them all down to come to Detroit. So that's a good sign showing that we weren't the only team reaching for him. But I see us taking – I think what's exactly going to happen with Detroit, Brett Helms has made it clear he's worried about work in-house. He's already told the fans to calm your shit. We're not going to go out there signing big-name players just because they're big-name players. We're signing only people that we know that can help us and for the right price. And I'm okay with it because guess what? Last year, I was very excited what they did. I wanted them to do more. And look what it got us this year. So right now, I'm comfortable with Brett Holmes. I see us locking up everybody who we want to return. And then I see us signing key players in this free agency that can help us for the right price.
And I see them competing again for the division. However, this year, it'll be interesting because you're going to have a first-place schedule. So you'll be playing a lot of the big boys throughout the year. And that'll either, hurt you a little bit because you're playing against such good teams, or iron sharpens iron. You guys will get real good and you may get into the playoffs. Then, you'll be ready to face the big boys for sure.
This is how I'm looking at it. I think we can do this. We might not be, as good. I mean, we might not be, 12-win team, or we could be better. But if you want to, one thing that this league shows, if you want to win the big game, you got to be able to beat the big teams in big games. So, if our players, our coaches, and everybody over here saying Super Bowl or bust, if they're 100% serious behind this message and they think they can do it, then guess what? There's no excuses. We got to go out there, first place schedule or not, and do it. That's it. We can't sit here and look, first place schedule and get scared. You got to play the games. I mean, this is what we wanted as a fan base as well. I mean, this is what we dreamed of as a fan base, having a team just to get, honestly, respect amongst the league. I don't know if you caught it. I made a cool highlight video. It's pinned at the top of my personal page. If you want to watch it, it's very cool. I made a cool storyline with it. Probably some of my best work. I'm excited though. So it's really cool because what I did what I did with it is I showed the worst part of Detroit history, and then I introduced the brand new lines into it.
I'll have to take a
Because
look at it later.
to me, I think I think shit in Detroit's going to be even crazier next year. Like you guys thought the fans were crazy this year. I think next year is going to be a whole new level for this team. Um, I'm just hoping I'm just hoping it's hard. I want Mosley to come back. I know we signed him and then he got hurt in his first game back with his other ACL in the other leg. I'm hoping he returns this year, but that's the only thing that worries me is we might not give him that chance again, just for the fact that we already took a chance on him once. He got hurt, same game, same knee.
Looking at our comments here, David Burns says that the Bears just released safety Eddie Jackson and guard Cody Whitehair. So, I mean, they're starting to make some cuts here early on. Talking about cuts, I've seen that A.J. McCarron of Cincinnati, he asked for his release so that he could join the United Football League and play for the St. Louis Battlehawks again this year. I am looking forward to seeing some of the spring football because a lot of these guys end up on the practice squads and come up into the league. They just need the reps. They need, of course, McCarron is a bona fide NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
He just didn't get there early enough in the season, and they had a great backup in Jake Browning. They brought in McCarron to be the third string guy, in case anything happened to him. But they'll get Burrow back. Wanted to move from the NFC North to the storylines in the NFC East because Brandon's here. We'll talk about the New York Giants. Saquon Barkley played on basically the franchise tag this year, so he's a free agent again. If they tag him again, it'll cost them a 25% increase. You're going to have Daniel Jones coming back off the injury, but is he really the better quarterback for them? I thought he was a poor man's Josh Allen the year prior to this because you've got Brian Daboll, the head coach of the Giants, coming over from the Bills, and he's molding Daniel Jones in that image. Josh Allen had a lot of problems with running the ball too much and turning it over with too many interceptions before he got there, and then he straightened him out, okay? And I think that Daniel Jones was the same way, and he straightened him out. They made the playoffs last year. And so, Tyrod Taylor looked really good. I don't know if he's under contract. When he was playing at their best, their defense started to step up near the end of the year. And I thought that, if everybody's healthy and they're not injured, because, they had injuries all over their team, that, they're a playoff contender. Now, not necessarily for the division yet, because I don't think we've seen enough from them from when they are healthy. And you've got the big dogs of Philadelphia and Dallas in the division. They shouldn't have any problems with Washington. I'm not plussed with Washington, having Dan Quinn become the head coach. I thought they should have elevated Eric Bieniemy to head coach and then have him bring in his own coordinators and staff. But you're going to have Cliff Kingsbury in Washington. You're going to have him as the offensive coordinator. Of course, Dan Quinn will probably run the defense, even though he's head coach. And, who's going to be their quarterback? They got the second pick in the draft. And so, Sam Howell may be a placekeeper for a rookie coming in. It feels like they hired Cliff Kingsbury because they want Caleb Williams.
I think that's who they want. And maybe they make a crazy trade with the Bears. My crazy thing is Um, what? I'm sorry. I was actually in
You're
the
typing
con.
up shit instead of paying attention.
Yeah. What now? What do you think the Giants do with QB?
Well, and like I said before, I mean, are they going to go with Tyrod Taylor? Is he even under contract? Because they played well with him.
Yeah.
He's been a journeyman, and every time he gets a chance to start, he either gets hurt or somebody pokes him in the damn in the lung with a needle and ruins his season. So the backup comes in and either plays great or whatever. That's what happened when he was with the Chargers, which
Yeah.
made Herbert start right away, and
See,
he never relinquished the job.
that's what's the crazy thing to me is who's going to be between both teams. Um,
But Daniel Jones is coming off the injury. He's under contract. He signed a big contract this last offseason. I would expect that they'll continue to try to give him the opportunity to be the franchise quarterback they hope he is. And if it doesn't work out this year while he is healthy, if they bolster the offensive line, they keep Saquon Barkley, the defense plays well, you just decide, you got to
yeah.
figure out your team. You're going to have a whole new slew of draft picks coming in. Who knows who they'll sign in free agency? And, you go from there to make your decisions on whether he's going to be your quarterback for the future or if you've made a mistake and you need to go in another direction.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what Brandon had to say, but I think he left. Brandon, if you're still here, tell us what you think about Daniel Jones going forward coming off the injury.
Um,
Burns says that he hates because he liked Jackson and Whitehair, but probably smart moves by both. Earl Jackson's still trying to find out what you think about McKinstry, the cornerback. He'd
okay.
like them to, draft him. I don't know who that is.
He's a
I
good
haven't
corner.
studied any of the college players yet.
He's a good cornerback from Alabama. And Euro, if that's who we take at 29, I'm not gonna be mad. I like the kid. The kid's a stud. And obviously we need secondary. So if he's there at 29 when that's who we take, I would be happy. I would be happy as long as we build defense, and make our
We'll
defense
get to the
better than what it was.
Chargers. We'll get to the Chargers when we get to the AFC. Right now, we're still talking about the NFC East. Philadelphia's got two new coordinators.
Yep.
Okay, they bring in Kellen Moore, the former offensive coordinator for the Chargers for 1 year, and he used to be with Dallas for several years, even under Jason Garrett. And then defensive coordinator Vic Fangio comes over from the Dolphins. And so, I think they're looking to stabilize the overall coaching staff. Both their offensive and defensive coordinators left to become head coaches after last season. And now during this season, things were going smooth halfway through the year. But after a while, I think the inexperience of the offensive and defensive coordinators started to show. I think it started to wear on the team. They tried to turn the defense over to Matt Patricia, and there was basically a lot of feuding inside the team. We've talked about A.J. Brown being a bit of a malcontent about things. I don't know if he'll still be with the team. Maybe they'll get things calmed down. It'll be a Stephon Diggs situation where just in the offseason he had a lot to say, but things will
Honestly,
straighten out.
I got two things on the Eagles. One, the Eagles did make a signing, former Lion, Julian Okawara. They signed him to a 1 year deal worth 2.79 mil, I think. So pretty much basically a def signing for their D line. So it tells me they're thinking they're going to lose somebody on that D line.
Well, they've
Also,
got salary cap issues, so I won't be
yeah,
surprised. That's why they've been drafting all this defensive lineman out of Georgia is to replace some of these older veterans. I don't know if Fletcher Cox is going to retire or not. We don't know whether Jason Kelsey on the offensive line is going to retire or not. He's
uh,
hinted that he may be coming back.
I think he's
The
coming
longer
back.
that he's away from the game and he's had time to calm down,
I
maybe he's
think.
happy with the way things are starting to, look here in the offseason
Well, I'm
already.
I'm just going to give my prediction on Kelsey. I'm really starting to think that the Kelsey brothers will retire at the same time. And I know it's crazy, but we've heard it out of Travis's mouth on their own broadcast. He's been thinking about retirement more than people think. And for some reason, it's just kind of lining up that I think they both walk away from the game at the same time. Because let's be real, they have the number one sports broadcast out right now. They're
But
making
part of the
money
reason
over
that it's
fish.
that way is because they are active players.
But if they
Okay.
but they stay both close to the game and still
Well,
have active people
I
come on
think
the
that they'll see
show.
a dramatic drop off if neither one of them is still in the game. I think Jason's going to end up taking a job eventually, not this year because I think he's coming back, but I think he'll end up being the color analyst for Amazon. Him and Al Michaels got along real good in his little test or whatever, and Kirk Herbstreit is not really the kind of guy for the pro game. He's more the college guy.
No,
And I think that if Jason, wants to, he can have that job. But Travis ain't going anywhere. You know,
no.
he said there's no way he would ever stop playing the game until he can't play anymore or isn't effective because he knows once he's done, he'll never get this, feeling or the enjoyment of that ever again. And he said that recently. So I know that there's no way he's going anywhere. But moving on in that division, you got the Dallas Cowboys. They signed Mike Zimmer as their new defensive coordinator. He used to be with the Cowboys years ago, and he runs an attacking style defense. A lot of Tampa 2, principles when it comes to his secondary. I think he'll find ways to utilize, Micah Parsons in different ways, but that's another player that's going to want to get paid, real soon. They're going to, CeeDee Lamb's going to want to get paid real soon. And Dak Prescott thinks he's worth $60 million a year. And so they've got a lot of problems with their salary cap. They got a lot of problems with, how much
Say
everybody
that.
thinks
Time
they
out.
deserve to get paid.
Say that again. Is he real?
Which part?
Is he really fucking asking for 60 million a year?
That's the word out is that hey, he's
I,
trying to set the top of the market again like he did before.
I'm just gonna say this right now, Cowboy fans. Get on your hands, get on your knees, pray to Jesus that somebody makes a decision before Jerry does. Because this is crazy. And I'm not saying Dak is, not a quarterback that cannot win, but he hasn't shown us a quarterback in the playoffs that can win out of himself. I mean, did you see him against Green Bay? And he's the first one to set this new market before Patrick Mahomes. And he didn't even earn the first 40 million
Yeah, I
that he
didn't think he
got.
was worth 40 million before. But being a Dallas Cowboy glamorizes you, okay? The reason everybody calls Dallas America's team is because if they're on TV, the ratings are through the roof, okay? Because people want to hate on them or they want to love them. And you are more important somehow being a player for the Dallas Cowboys than if you played for the Carolina Panthers or, just to name one team, Tennessee Titans or something like that,
Yeah.
And so I would think that with the off the field endorsements that these guys can get being with the Dallas Cowboys, that they can afford to not try to reset the market every time they go to get a new contract. But CeeDee
Exactly.
Lamb's going to think I'm the best receiver in the NFL and I want paid. And he's going to get paid a lot because Jamar Chase is going to get paid a lot, and Justin Jefferson's going to get paid a lot, and the wide receiver market's going to go up, 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 and up. And it's going to drive, some of these teams crazy. And Jerry Jones is going to end up paying for them. And because he pays Micah Parsons and paid CeeDee Lamb, he's going to end up with salary cap hell. And the Dallas Cowboys are not winning the Super Bowl anytime soon.
It's just
and so
insane.
That's the NFC East.
That's just insane because, these players like Micah Parsons, be honest, if I'm him, I would want him off my team right now at this point. And I'm not saying he's just a trash player. I just feel like he's became such a damn distraction with his damn mouth.
Yeah.
He's always crying. Like today, he flew somewhere in the airport and he's saying that fans are stalking him with mini helmets. He can't walk through the airport, and he posts a picture of this fan holding a helmet, and she's standing like 5 feet facing the opposite direction he is, and she's not even moving. It's like, is she really stalking you, dude, or are you just that desperate for some fucking attention from somebody? Yeah. You know what I mean? Because she wasn't close to him. She wasn't following him. She was just standing there with the matter of fact, and it was a Lions helmet in her hands. So really kind of blown me away anyway. Why would she be trying to get you to sign a Lions helmet? You don't play for the Lions. Same thing with
David
AJ
Bird
Brown.
says he expects Dan Quinn and the Commanders to beat the socks off the Cowboys next year. Well, I mean, he knows what offense they're running. But are they going to have the players on defense to do that? I thought they had a decent offense. I think they've got some players on offense in Washington. McLaurin's a good receiver. Dotson's a good receiver, but I don't think he's been utilized enough. They have a couple of really good running backs, but the offensive line is trash. And so they cannot run the football with authority like they want to with Gibson and Robinson. I think they need a tight end. And, we'll just have to see, what happens there. These are just us going through the storylines, of possible everything that's happening. NFC South, New Orleans Saints. They didn't.
Hey, we got a special visitor.
Do what?
We got a special visitor. What's up,
Ron? Ron! Hey, buddy!
We were just talking about you a little bit ago, buddy.
Ron's watching. Hope you're feeling better.
He said, David said, that's going to be a comedy show when the Commanders blow the Cowboys out the new season. That would be funny.
David must be a Cowboy hater. He hopes that they kill him. That's all right. And it would be a comedy. It would be comedy gold. I love it when, they're always complaining they're showing Taylor Swift up there, in the box. I love it when they show Jerry Jones and he's all like, because shit ain't going good.
Hey, guys, you know my favorite part of Jerry all season this year was? I don't know if you caught it. I don't know if everybody else caught it. I won't take my headphones off for a second so I don't ruin them. But this was my favorite pose in that Green Bay playoff game. When Green Bay started kicking their ass, they showed him at the window, and he turned around like this. That was my favorite part of the whole game.
Couldn't watch it. Couldn't watch it. It was getting too gross for him.
That was my favorite vision of him. I was like, Jerry. I called it. I told my buddy, I said, look, Jerry just turned around and cussed out the whole front office. What the fuck were you guys thinking?
The front office. Get you a fucking general manager.
That's the funny part of it, David, because he turned around and he started yelling at everybody about shit that was happening on the field. And at the end of the day, it was his own dumbass fault. He's the one that signed the checks.
Well, I mean, they make the playoffs, but they choke every year.
Exactly. Because what it is?
I don't want to spend too long on any particular team. We just kind of want to run through each one here. New Orleans Saints, we talked about it in the offseason. I don't think they lived up to their billing. I thought that with Derek Carr there, that they would make the playoffs, probably win the division. They got a new offensive coordinator coming in. I thought it was going to be John Gruden, but it turns out that they went in another direction. And so, we'll have to see how that works out. The defense, which has been good for several years, is getting older. And so Mickey Loomis, the general manager, has got to, start drafting some winners, get
Yes.
some good young talent in there to start taking place of some of these guys. Demario Davis is not going to play forever. Cameron Jordan is not going to play forever. Um, so anyway, just with the Saints, I expect that there will be some changes. I think that the play calling was not good. I'm glad they fired Pete Carmichael. Hopefully, the new offensive coordinator will do better for them because it's going to be a tougher division this next year. Tampa won the division. Okay. Baker Mayfield's a free agent. Is there demand for him elsewhere? Is he going to drive the price up on them? Same thing with their defense. They're getting long in the tooth when it comes to their age. Levante David is basically going year to year on one-year deals the last two seasons. They're not the team that they were when Brady was there, although they have a lot of players from there. Mike Evans, going to be a free agent there, possibly leaving to go to another team. And I don't know. You got anything about New Orleans and Tampa before we go to Atlanta?
New Orleans, I want to see what they do this offseason. I think because I think they should be a good team. They just got to get some stuff figured out. They might have to move a couple things around and get a couple more players in there, but to me, they should have been a way better team than like we discussed
We
earlier
really
this
thought
offseason.
they were going to make the playoffs.
And Tampa, I'm excited for Baker. I want to see if he gets the contract I think he personally deserves.
Or
And
are
I
they
want to
going to
see what he
draft a
can.
quarterback and groom him to to eventually replace him? Maybe the year after this one.
That too.
They've had Kyle Trask there from Florida for several years. He's been there since Brady was there, and he's never got the opportunity to start. And so you don't know what he's got. But
Yeah,
obviously, if Baker can beat him out, I wouldn't be too worried about him being the starter for Tampa going forward.
exactly.
Um, with the Atlanta Falcons, they have a lot of pieces. I really thought Bill Belichick was going to be the head coach there.
Actually,
I'm
too.
surprised that it was Raheem Morris as the new head coach, a defensive coach rather than an offensive one.
Here's the crazy thing, David, is the last time we brought this up in the last broadcast, you said you thought it was he wanted too much control and he was going to butt heads and stuff. Well, Arthur Smith came out just a couple days after last week's broadcast and said in an interview that that wasn't the case. Belichick did not ask for too much power and didn't ask for full control. And
well, it had to be something because I was told they offered him the job and he turned it down because he couldn't get something he wanted. So what was the thing he wanted?
I'm not sure on that. According to Arthur Smith, he was never offered the job. They were in talks, but they liked Morris more, which leads me to there could be something missing of the story because I don't understand how you like the offensive coordinator that's never been a head coach before over a guy who won 6 championships, 6 Super Bowls anyway.
Well, there's a lot of ageism going on. Belichick didn't get a head coaching job. Pete Carroll didn't get another head coaching job. There's a lot of these older coaches that are kind of getting phased out because they want young bright minds that can relate to the players of today. And maybe that's just not, what was up Atlanta's sleeve, when it comes to them.
I mean, that is a big thing in this league. They want the younger coaches, and see I mean, I guess that's what works, I guess now in this league. I don't know. To me, it's a lot different than high school because, I always thought I had the great coaches. Because when I played in high school, my first 2 years, we were 7-1 or 7-2 and 8-1. And we won big in a lot of our games, you know. And we could have a team down by 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns in halftime. And our coaches still fucking yelled at us like we were the biggest, shittiest team in the world. You know what I mean? They were not nice. And that actually drove us to play.
It's because you were on the team, Chris.
It probably was. But, it drove us to play even harder the second half. And then you watch it come in the pros, and you watch the pros, and you hear these players, oh, this coach is a fucking asshole because he made us do this and this and that.
They got spoiled when they started getting those $1 million checks.
And that's exactly the difference between college, high school, and the pros. Is you go from not getting paid to just being grateful you get to actually start and play a majority of the game to, hey, I make more money than you.
And
bitch.
that is why they have these in-depth interviews. They test them. They do all these things at the combine to find out, do they truly love the game, or is it about the money for them?
Exactly.
They want people that it is about the game first, family football, and then the money. The money will come if you're a good player and if you're a good person.
Exactly.
If you're a piece of shit like Antonio Brown, you're gone. It doesn't matter whether he's a good player or not.
No.
Because
think about it. That's the craziest thing. Think about how many teams could have probably signed him right before the playoff push.
Yeah.
And had some success, but not one person called him because no one's dealing with that.
He needed help. He wouldn't get the help, and nobody wants to deal with that kind of situation.
And that's where
Carolina Panthers, Carolina's a dumpster fire. They got a new coach. They've got Bryce Young there, and they better hope that, the new head coach there can get things fixed in a hurry, or things are going to go downhill even worse. And David Tepper is not a patient man at head as the owner of the team. We saw that this year when he fired Frank Reich before the season even ended. I don't expect anything out of Carolina. They need a lot of young players to come in. They better hope they draft some good people. Dan Morgan's the new general manager there, used to be linebacker for him. And so, good luck to him and his scouting department. Even in a weak division, I don't see him winning very many games. Moving on to the NFC West, of course, we talked about the 49ers going to the Super Bowl. They're going to need a new defensive coordinator after firing Steve Wilkes, who probably didn't deserve to be fired, but Shanahan's looking for a scapegoat. Brandon Ayuk, going to want paid. Got a couple other players on the team that are going to want to get paid. They've got some salary cap room because they're not paying Purdy, franchise quarterback money. And I expect them to be back in this position, at least into the NFC Championship game again next year, barring bad health.
Yeah. They got to hope. Shanahan has a hope because I feel like if they have a season where they don't produce somewhat close to what they did this year, that could make that seat real hot for him. Because, John Smith, John Lynch over there, he's won a Super Bowl and he's been a good GM and he's made good moves. And I feel like right now, he, as a person, from the look on his face, he's getting pretty irritated that he's done such a fantastic job with that team over there and hasn't been rewarded like he truly should have been. He should have 2 Lombardies right now, David.
Now we're going to talk about the team that I think will be a surprise this next year. They beat the Dallas Cowboys. That'll make David Burns happy. Okay. They played the Giants tough when the Giants were still doing well. They played the Eagles tough and beat the Eagles in Philadelphia. Okay. And that's the Arizona Cardinals. Okay.
I agree.
They hung around with a new head coach and played everybody tough all year long. A different trajectory, for their team in comparison to, Houston. Houston hit the big time and went, straight into the playoffs. Arizona is building it up slowly with the new head coach in Gannon. Okay. And now they got Kyler Murray back. And early in the season, we were like, they're not going to let him play. They're going to tank to get the number 1 pick, and all this other stuff. And he comes back after they won a couple games with Dobbs before he ended up getting shipped to Minnesota. The defense plays hard for the head coach. The offense is coming along. They've got some weapons on this team, and they've got draft picks going to be coming in big time after they traded the number 3 pick to Houston last year. So they hold Houston's first rounder this year, along with their own, with Murray being healthy and the way that they played so good near the end of the season. I just think Arizona's going to make some noise this next year.
I think so. They could be the biggest underdog team coming up in the league this year. And not like underdog like that. I just think a lot of people, a lot of fan-wise, and maybe even some teams are not going to give them the true look like they should have been recognized for the efforts of this year.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see what they do this season. And that's a team I think we will focus highly on this offseason and the moves they make. That's for sure.
The Seattle Seahawks got a new head coach. And, I think it was time for a change when it comes to just having a different voice as your leader.
Yeah.
Nothing against Pete Carroll, okay? But there are things that have happened in his career there that, have stagnated the team.
Yeah.
I think he ran Russell Wilson off, not because Russell was in decline, but because, he wasn't willing to work with him on a basis that allowed them to coexist. And I think that Russ and a lot of the players hold a grudge for not giving the ball to Marshawn Lynch on the 1-yard line, not overruling the offensive coordinator and being like, what are we doing this for? Seattle should have 2 Super Bowl championships. And one of them is Brady and the Patriots stole from them. They should have never had that.
Totally agree.
And I think that has lingered, for many years. They've rebuilt their defense, and their defense looks pretty decent for a young team.
Yeah.
But they've got some expensive receivers. They've got some young, running backs. But they need to. They're going to keep Geno Smith for 1 more year. It was announced today that they're not going to release him, and he's going to get his guaranteed money going into this year, which means he'll be the starter. But I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle drafts a quarterback to be his replacement after this year. Somebody that could sit behind him and learn, and they need to bolster their offensive line because they got to protect the quarterback no matter who it is, or they won't be going back to the playoffs. They made it 2 years ago. This last year, they just missed out. So they're on the cusp of being a playoff team, but they just got to get some more help through free agency in the draft.
You know who I wouldn't be surprised to see go to Seattle as a QB in the draft?
Bo Nix?
JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
just because Mike McDaniel, before he coached at Baltimore, where did he come from?
Michigan.
Michigan. That connection.
But isn't Bo Nix your Washington quarterback? He can stay right there, learn behind Geno Smith.
I'm not saying he wouldn't go there, but if you ask me, JJ, if you want my opinion, to me, the best quarterback in this draft, the one with the most proven consistent play, mind you, is JJ McCarthy in this draft. That's just my opinion. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying
you're a
that
Michigan homer.
I'm not being Michigan homer. I'm just going off the quarterbacks. I'm just going off the quarterbacks. Think about it. Nick's transferred. He started at Indiana, and then he transferred to Washington, and that's when he really got his name from here to here, because now he played on a better school, better stage, with better results. Same thing with Caleb Williams. He got the big name because Oklahoma, USC. He played better at Oklahoma probably than he did at USC, because, USC hasn't done nothing really that spectacular. And then you had JJ from a freshman till now play consistent at Michigan. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's the next Tom Brady or nothing, but to me, if I'm a GM, I want to draft and I'm picking the QB, consistently play is a huge thing in my eyes and a prospect. And I feel like JJ is that QB. Now, I could be wrong, but I still think I think he's better in Nix. And I think he's better in Caleb Williams. I don't know the rest of the QBs technically in this, all of them by name and where they're at from this draft class. So I can't speak on those. But out of the first two, I think JJ's the better quarterback out of those two.
Well, and maybe he'll end up in Seattle. But they don't need it. They don't need a quarterback with the Rams. Matt Stafford and the group had a down year the previous season. They come back with some really great draft picks. They picked up, Puka Nakua. They got Tutu Atwell at wide receiver. They got some really strong defensive players. They still got Aaron Donald, still got Matt Stafford, and I think that the Rams are back on the rise. It's just unfortunate for them that they had to go on the road to play against Detroit, because I think if they'd had to go on the road to play Tampa, I think that, the Rams would have beat Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And so, I think the Rams are going to be, a team that is coming back up into the playoff hunt. And if they make the playoffs, that means somebody that has, these teams that are making the playoffs, or that we see making the playoffs this year that didn't make it this last year, are going to end up replacing some teams that did. I could see New Orleans replacing Tampa, and I could see, Dallas falling by the wayside if they don't have a good defense to go with their offense this year. That could be the spot where you get Minnesota back in the playoffs, or we see Arizona get in there. They got 7 spots in each conference to make the playoffs. And, luckily for some of these teams, that they were able to get in. Green Bay barely made it in, and they were dynamite at number 7.
Yep. That's why I say you just got to make the party. You just got to make the party at the end of the year. Once you make the party, you're in, and anything can happen as long as your team puts the minds to it.
Going to the AFC, we'll start with the AFC South. Houston Texans coming off a playoff berth and a victory over Cleveland in the opening round. They lost to Baltimore, but they played tough. They're going to have another year under the same systems and everything. Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator, interviewed for some head coaching jobs, but he returns for Houston. DeMeco Ryans had a really strong defense. And they're going to get more offensive and defensive players coming in from the draft and through free agency to make them even better. They don't really have any players that are, I would call, essential in free agency that they're on the verge of losing. And so I think they'll just get better and better. We talked about Indianapolis getting Anthony Richardson back at quarterback. Of course, they'll still have Gardner Minshew as the backup and veteran to mentor him. He's going to come back in there, and start, but he's got to learn to get down so he doesn't hurt himself. Shoulder injuries and knee injuries from, taking a beating because he wants to take off and run, which is a valuable part of his game, but he's got to learn to protect himself. Now, the defense, they didn't look all that good this year for Indianapolis. Gus Bradley in his second year as defensive coordinator there, they haven't looked good in the 2 years he's been there. He better start to show signs of improvement or he'll be out and they'll be looking for a new defensive coordinator in Indianapolis. Of course, they signed Jonathan Taylor to a long-term deal in the offseason, but their big free agent right now for them is wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. He's going to be on the market. Are they going to decide to franchise him? I'm not sure he's the kind of player you would franchise, which means he's going to be on the open market. And there's a lot of teams that may be looking to add somebody like him, to their roster.
Yeah.
Jacksonville, who did not make the playoffs this last year after, doing very well the year before, I just think that the team had a lot of fatigue. The defense didn't play up to snuff. They brought in the defensive coordinator from the Atlanta Falcons, whose Atlanta's defense was pretty decent this last year. He takes over as defensive coordinator for the Jags, but you're going to have, this will be the third year for Trevor Lawrence under Doug Peterson as the head coach, and that should be the time when all the switches are flipped and the lights are all coming on. And so, we haven't talked about Jacksonville a whole lot because they kind of fell by the wayside early on and they didn't get into the playoffs. But I think they could be a dangerous team if they just find, a few more weapons, a little bit more help on the offensive line. Calvin Ridley is a free agent. Are they going to franchise tag him? Or is he going to be, one of these guys that they let walk away because they think they can do better elsewhere?
Yeah.
And then finally in the division, you've got the Tennessee Titans, new head coach. They let Vrabel go. I think that they've got an okay defense because of their front. Their front is good, but the secondary is weak. They're going to go with Will Levis at quarterback. That means that they're going to let Tannehill walk. There's a real chance that Derrick Henry doesn't sign with Tennessee. He's going to go elsewhere. Don't want to speculate right now as to who will be interested in an aging running back that's been beat up over the last couple of years.
My opinion
but not going to be with Tennessee, which means their identity is going to change. They have been a run-it-first team for a long time under Vrabel, and I think they're really going to open it up, and it's going to be pass first with Levis.
Here's the thing, I'm just going to say this because I think Henry made it clear on Bussin' with the Boys broadcast that he loves Tennessee, really don't want to leave, but he has a dream of winning a Super Bowl, and that has not died out. So that what tells me is he's going to want to go to a team that can use him and has a legit chance to win a Super Bowl. So Kansas City, if you could fork the funds out just enough, I think you could get a one-year deal off Henry for very cheap for the minimum. And you could beast up your running game with Pacheco and Mahomes. if you're serious on the three-peat, let's hear it out. Think about that.
I think that Brett Veach, the general manager of Kansas City, and we can go straight into the AFC West now at this point. When he does sign players from other teams, they're not of his age. Okay.
No, I know that.
He keeps them in their mid-20s. He's going to sign them to deals that make sense to them. I don't think that Derrick Henry is a target for Kansas City. I think they will add a running back.
No. I'm not saying he's
in a backup role.
I'm not saying you're the target. He would be your target. I'm saying you're his target, and you could get him for a cheap 1-year deal. Because think about it.
I could see him as a backup in Buffalo, where there was talk that he may sign there, get traded there this last year. I could see him as, a Pittsburgh Steeler backing up the guys that are there. A team that's looking for a hard-charging running back. I'll tell you a team that I think that would be perfect for him. The Chargers. Okay? They've got Austin Eckler, who's an undersized running back. Okay? They have trouble on the goal line. They have trouble controlling the clock, and it allows their defense to be on the field way too much. And when we get to the Chargers, which we'll talk about now, because we've already talked about Kansas City with Snead and Jones and, what they're going to do there. But, with the Chargers, you got Jim Harbaugh, and his calling card has been a strong running game and a very solid defense. And those are the things that have been a problem for the Chargers. He doesn't have to worry about the quarterback. He's got the quarterback. Okay? If he does the things that he has done in the past at his other stops, Michigan and the 49ers and Stanford and the University of San Diego, all those places, run the ball downhill and down your throat and bolster the defense. And one way to help the defense is to run the ball. Okay? And so I could see him being there. That could be an interesting matchup, having him become a Charger. They'll definitely have somebody to give the ball to on the goal line when they struggle in the red zone. They have been settling for field goals instead of getting touchdowns. And, I could see that happening.
Oh, for sure. I just think Henry really wants to go to a team that can compete for a Super Bowl next year.
And I think the Chargers can do that. It didn't take him nothing flat to turn the luck of the 49ers around within only one season, and had them in the playoffs, and then they were consistently in the NFC Championship game, and he eventually got them to the Super Bowl against his brother. I think the same kind of things are going to happen for the Chargers. Yes, I know they're in the same division as the Chiefs, but the Chargers have been the one team that have given the Chiefs problems over the last few years consistently. And so now you add Jim Harbaugh, you add him with his defense and such. If he brings his calling cards to the team, then I think that, you're going to have yourself a really dangerous team this year with the Chargers.
I mean, I can't disagree with you.
They don't have to add Derrick Henry to make that happen. I just think that that'd be a smart play.
I just heard a lot of rumors.
The rest of the division, you don't know who's going to play quarterback, and Russell Wilson has probably ran himself out of town with the Denver Broncos, and he could end up with the Raiders, okay? So that he stays on the West Coast, and, his woman could end up with a residency there in Vegas performing, and, he'll get to play the Broncos and stick it to them twice a year, But, both of these teams need a quarterback. And it'll be interesting to see where they go from here. Antonio Pierce keeps the head coaching position after being the interim head coach after they fired Josh McDaniels. They've got weapons. Josh Jacobs and Devontae Adams on the offense. They got Max Crosby on defense. Everybody's going to get a slew of new players through the draft and free agency. What is going to happen this offseason with this team going forward? Are people going to want to come there? Are they going to want to play for Antonio Pierce? Are they going to want to play in the same division as the Chiefs and the Chargers, knowing what's probably coming with the Chargers and what the Chiefs have been as they head for a three-peat?
Yeah. No, it's a solid question. David Burns brought up a point. He said the Rams could have Derrick Henry.
Well, so then you've got the you've got the Denver Broncos are kind of the last team, to discuss. Sean Payton turned the team around from early in the season when they were losing everything in sight. They gave up 70 points to the Miami Dolphins. And so, they were on the verge of making the playoffs near the end of the season. It'll just kind of depend on what they do at quarterback and, what kind of free agents they can lure in and what they do to the draft. There's not a lot to see here, when it comes to big storylines other than the quarterback position, which takes us to the AFC East and the Miami Dolphins, who don't have a controversy at quarterback for the first time in a couple of years. Tua Tagovailoa made it through an entire full season. They've got a pretty dynamic offense, but the defense fell apart late in the year. Their defensive coordinator decided he wanted to part ways with the team because of differences with the head coach. He leaves and goes to Philadelphia. So they'll have a new defensive coordinator. They've got some high-priced free agents that are going to be available, especially on defense this year. And, you just got to look and see what can they do to improve their team. They got taken out back and beaten the last game of the season by the Buffalo Bills, who found their offensive coordinator, in Joe Brady. They started running the football in Buffalo with James Cook. They started getting the ball to him out of the backfield. He is one of my top fantasy football, targets this next year, James Cook from Buffalo. But Von Miller's done, in my opinion. They overpaid for him. The injuries have cost them. They're going to end up letting him go. They need more pass rush. They couldn't get to Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and it cost them.
Yeah. No, they definitely need to upgrade that defensive pass rush. That's for sure. No questions.
Got a new voice in New England, Jared Mayo, the new head coach of the Patriots, after, more than 2 decades of having Bill Belichick there. What are they going to do at quarterback? Are they going to stick with Mac Jones, who's one of those quarterbacks, when we talked earlier, a different offensive coordinator every year ruins them? Okay, now he had Bill O'Brien, but Bill O'Brien has left the building again. Okay, so he's gone and off to another team. And you've got, before that, they tried to use a defensive coordinator in Matt Patricia, as the offensive coordinator for some reason, which didn't make any sense to me. And the year before that was Josh McDaniels. Mac Jones has been ruined as a quarterback, even though he played great his first year. He comes from a great pedigree from Alabama. He made the Pro Bowl. He's a likable player, but he doesn't have any support. Part of the offensive line is a sieve. The wide receivers that they brought in, are not getting open like, you would want them to. Now, I like Juju Smith-Schuster, but he's not Jacoby Myers. No. And Devontae Parker was let go from the Dolphins for a reason. Now they have a good tight end in Mike Gesicki from Miami. And, they have some pretty good running backs. They signed Ezekiel Elliott this last year, and he played really well. He was in the thinnest and best condition I think he has been in since his rookie year with Dallas. And so, between him and hurt Ramondre Stevenson, I think they'll have a good running game. I expect the defense to continue to be good, but it's the passing game. That's the main focal point of the offseason to improve that for New England. And when you talk about the Jets, you got them running it back and hoping Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy this year instead of playing 4 plays and leaving with the torn Achilles.
Yeah. Still waiting to see how that's going to turn out with the full season.
And that goes us to the final division, which is the AFC North. You've got, the number 1 seed in the Baltimore Ravens. They come off the loss against the Chiefs playing in Baltimore. And, when you look at this division, all the quarterbacks were hurt except for Lamar Jackson. This is the first year that he was healthy while everybody else was injured. Pickett in Pittsburgh, is he the answer? Or are they going to, they've already decided they're going to part ways with Trubisky, and they had their 3rd stringer starting the playoff games when Pickett was healthy.
I hope they're not trying to start Mason Rudolph as the next franchise.
Yeah,
QB
Mason
again.
Rudolph, I don't think that he is the answer going forward.
No.
And then Flacco was in Cleveland. Cleveland was really hitting its stride. They beat Baltimore in Baltimore with, Deshaun Watson, and then the shoulder injury crept in, and he had to get surgery.
Now, quick question.
So I like Cleveland going forward this next year in that division.
Oh, for sure.
I love the defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz, in Schwartz. And, he's got that attacking style. Of course, Myles Garrett got Defensive Player of the Year. I thought it should have gone to TJ Watt, but, you've got a team, I think, that's primed to do some things. I think Flacco could get re-signed as the backup, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do with Deshaun Watson next year. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Cincinnati gets Joe Burrow back. They're going to franchise tag T. Higgins. But they've got some defensive inefficiencies there that they need to work on. And then Pittsburgh, we talked about, the offensive line. They actually started to run the ball better near the end of the season with a different offensive coordinator. But they bring in Arthur Smith, the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, who used to be the offensive coordinator for the Titans, and they ran the ball a lot there with Derrick Henry. So maybe Harris and Warren, will start to get more touches, get some bigger yards on the ground. That can do nothing but help the quarterback, keep him upright, and open up play action passing to some of these big play receivers that we know they have. They're just unable to utilize them this last year.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, that's the whole league, and those are kind of the storylines that we're looking at going forward. I don't have anything else, buddy. I think we did a good job.
We did do a good job. I do want to say for all the people who've watched us for this past season, our first year doing this broadcast and learning as we go week in and week out, I appreciate all the support we got this year. I'm excited for this season to be here with you, and I'm hoping we can take this thing to a higher level. Here in the next couple of years, over the next season, I want you to keep building this page, so that's what I really want to say is just thank you for all the support and everybody who's tuned in the week. Thank you, David, for doing this with me. I couldn't ask for a better co-host.
I appreciate it. It's been fun, sometimes stressful because we're in a hurry trying to get home from work and get some graphics and things put together so we can put on a good show for everybody. But I've had a good time. We had a lot of good interaction tonight. It's too
Yeah.
bad that we're going to take a little time off and we don't really have a whole lot to talk about because we'd love to keep our audience coming back and chatting with us and
Mhm.
be interactive for the show. But probably in a couple of weeks, and it'll be the Sunday night spectacular. You see my graphic back here. We've been doing the shows on Tuesday for those of you that haven't been watching in the past, because it would be the end of the week and Monday night football would be over, and we could talk about the whole week's worth of games and preview the next week's worth of stuff. But we're definitely going to be involved in, detailing what happens with every team in the offseason when it comes to coaching changes, free agency, the draft. Last year, and I'm hoping to do it again this year, we will have a mock draft, and we'll get a hold of people that watch us. We'll find out what your favorite teams are, and we'll have you draft who you want in your position, off the broadcast, and then we'll announce them all, to show what our mock draft is of the 32, first round, just the first round. Some people were confused and thought we were going to do the whole thing, and then they weren't interested. But we're going to do the first round mock draft, 1 through 32, of who's available. We'll use the Pro Football Focus tool to help us along with who's available at positions and everything, and it's going to be a fun springtime when we get around to the draft and everything, and before too long, before you know it, it'll be football season again. We'll talk fantasy football. We'll give our picks. We'll make predictions going into next season, what we think's going to happen.
Yeah.
We try to provide as much content as we can for everybody, and
Yeah.
I feel like we've done a good job. This is basically our 1-year anniversary of starting this podcast,
Yeah.
and it's been a lot of fun, Chris. Thanks for inviting me to join you.
No problem, buddy. I wouldn't want to do it with anybody but you. Also, so let's go for this as of right now. If you haven't followed Fourth and Goal Sports, please do, because I post a banner every a few days ahead of the show. So, and then you also get every notification every time we do go live. So we'll probably be back in let's say probably maybe 2 weeks, depending on the storylines from what happens from today and the 2 weeks. The notice will be up. There's a possible I might, because on Thursday nights usually, but I might do it on Friday nights. Not this year, just so it's a little bit easier, or possibly maybe even a Saturday evening. But I bring on fans. So if you're one of those fans with real football knowledge to your team, don't be afraid to DM me. I don't have a problem bringing you on, interviewing you about your team, talking about your team needs, listening to how you became a fan. I do those interviews. I also do have a couple connections with super fans. Some I try to get on this year before the season. I wasn't able to. I got the previous fan of the year, not from this season, but from the last season, and Ellie Goodman. I'm going to try to get her again this year to come on at some point. So pay attention for the banner, possibly us for the first Sunday in 2 weeks. And then I'll be interviewing people as well, either on Thursday or Friday. I'm not 100% sure yet. And I plan to stream some playing Madden on just to kill some downtime when things are slow, and go from there. And like I said, follow the page. I post new storylines as much as I can on the Fourth and Goal Sports throughout the week. So if you're looking for a good page to keep up and join us for a good podcast, you found it. So other than that, I can't wait till we're back talking football. I'm going to enjoy this break. I know you're probably going to enjoy it too. So
I gotta go. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time right here.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Until then, take it easy.